Yeah, I appreciate that. That was big, big, yeah. But you don't inherit your.
No. All right, you ready to go? Rocking all the time. Ready. All right, we'll call the Grand Forks County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Today is December 5th, 2023. All commissioners are present. And we will start with the pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. First thing on the agenda is election of a chair and vice chair. On 10-year is tough. So I would entertain a motion for somebody to nominate.
Move anything and next chair.
Okay. Commissioner Rusted nominates Commissioner Hagan. Is there a second to that? Second by Commissioner Peach. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion's carried. Vice Chair. I entertain a motion to elect the new vice chair.
Cindy, use something you want.
You ready to move?
Okay, I'll move. Cindy Peach. Commissioner Peach. All right, is there a second to that one, Commissioner Hagan? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
Here you go.
Congratulations.
You're glad to get rid of that.
Party the set sweet sorrow.
All right, the first item on the agenda, or the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at the meeting or minutes? Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Second,
Second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Then the approval of the order of agenda. Are there any items that anyone knows about that should be added to the agenda at this point?
I would move approval of the orders of the agenda.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hagan. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, it's passed. Then the consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like to have pulled and discussed? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Ross. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That is passed. The next item on the agenda is Grand Sky, that,
Mr. Sawyer is
is
online.
the online. There he is. He's all melted in.
Good evening. Congratulations on being elected chair.
Yes, we're thrilled.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Back in November, the commission approved Grand Sky spending approximately $400,000 of appropriated funds from the legislature to conduct an engineering study to remove points of failure on the Grand Sky beyond line of sight system. Since we have kicked off that work, we have found a variety of other challenges with the system, which need to be dug into a little bit deeper and is going to require more effort. Specifically, we need to examine particular pieces of equipment in the system going all the way into where the system connects to the Air Force's system in the tower, all the way through the various servers. we didn't expect we were going to have to dig that far into it. We thought it was more, the issues were a little bit more localized. And so I am requesting from the commission that our budget be increased to up to not to exceed amount of $700,000 to give us the ability to bring on additional engineering support from Thales as needed. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but effectively the study is the same. It's just going to be expanding and I need a little bit more budget for it.
All right. Support, you got a comment with that?
No, Mr. Chairman, I do not. It fits with what the state funds are meant to support.
I assume we need a motion to approve the request. Is there any discussion before we have that, or you've got a motion?
I'll approve a motion.
One second. Commissioner Higgins?
You can take it.
It was a tie.
The time, okay. Find that, Barbara's. All right, is there any discussion or any questions for Mr. Dwyer before we vote? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sawyer.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Close the meeting if you like. All right, see you later.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, Mr. Longstead, do we need a roll call vote? Because we're extending funds. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
all right, we will backtrack a minute. You can have a vote on that motion. A roll call, Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
There we go, unanimous. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. Take the money. Well, now it's on a third ball if it.
Got some new stuff.
All right, Mr. Burkholder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and commissioners. Thank you for your time. On May 2nd of this year, you approved permission for me to move forward with an amendment to our identified per diem contracts. At that time, I brought 5 different contracts to you that were more than a decade old or older and had not had a rate adjustment inception. In my request moving forward, I asked that the implementation of any said amendment not be enacted until 1/1/24, allowing all entities / agencies the opportunity and ability to budget for increased costs. To date, I have heard from 4 of the 5 agencies or departments contacted, only not getting a response from Walsh County. Therefore, in an email to Walsh County dated 11/15, I have notified them that in absent of a return of a signed contract, it would be my intent to let the current contract expire. So if I don't have a contract by then, within the next 40 days, that the contract would expire. What I have been able to do though is the US Air Force Base, they just amended their contract by themselves, added the different rates and stuff in there, and that was a good easy thing to do. I didn't have to do anything, actually, they just sent it to me, and it was signed by their people already. But I do have before you, and Ms. Nelson has them, we have a signed contract from the city of Grand Forks, Trail County and Pembina County adopting or accepting the new rates and the entire contract, which was presented to you in May. I asked that permission be provided so the chair and auditor can sign the contract so that we can have them in place with all agencies prior to their effective date from 1/1/24.
All right,
We'll allow signatures of the chair.
should we take them one at a time? Take the turn.
Yes, I think that
All right.
would be better.
The first one on the list, I think, was Trail County. Okay, looking for that.
That motion will be trail.
Okay.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Hagan, any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I.
Opposed?
They have to be roll call.
Pardon?
Do they have to be roll call or not?
This is not spending money, so. Do you think it should be?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, while it's not spending money, I think any fund procedural should be a roll call. So this would be approved.
Can it be done by doing a roll call vote, and calling the voice vote?
Yeah.
All right, so. You'll do, assuming a roll call vote. You approve the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. That was Trail County. Then, the next one in the packet, I think, was Pembina County. There's a motion on that one.
Move approval of Pembina County.
Mr. Hagan, second. Second. Mr. Russell. Okay. Any further discussion on that one? Right, assuming a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Passed. And the third one is the city of Grand Forks, right?
I would move approval of the city of Grand Forks
Second.
being signed by the audit, the chair and the audit.
second.
Yeah.
Ready to
But
go.
those guys-
Keep doing it now.
I know. All right. There are no further discussion or questions, and assuming a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye,
I,
and opposed. Now, unanimously. All right, your next item is the work order.
The next item I have on the agenda, 2023 leave carryover, I would like to withdraw. As the information that I sent to you, had to be here in time to be put on the agenda and copied for your packet, and I believe we have resolution. My concern was, at the time that I asked to come to you to speak to you on this regard, was I had 93 different declinations of vacation requests throughout the year. And my calculations showed I had 13 individuals that were over 200 hours, and I had concern that at the end of the year, we'd have people losing hours. We've been able to work diligently, I think, and I only have one officer right now that needs to take a day. We need to find a day for that individual. We'll have everyone covered, but that was my concern. I didn't want people to lose vacation hours because of us declining requests, but I think we have that all resolved. So if I can.
We have a question, Dan. When I saw that sheet, I was thinking of what is going on here. You have to deny almost every request for time off. Are you that shorthanded is my question?
We definitely, Commissioner Hagan, commissioners, definitely shorthanded, and that plays into this frequently. We have a team that's short 2-3 people. At best, we might be able to get one person a day off, never two. And sometimes people might want the same days off, so whoever puts in the request first is going to get it, the other one will not. And those 93 requests that were declined, just for information's sake, it happened to one individual on 3 different occasions for 6 days, another individual 6 days, 6 occurrences. Another one 7 days, 7 occurrences. And that's my concern, is because these individuals are trying to take a day off. We can't allow it because we don't have the staffing. And I really would have hated them to lose their hours, but like I said, it's been resolved. We've been able to accommodate those that would have been above 240 at the end of the year. Someone apparently had planned well enough, at least, that there were hours that they could take in this month. So
I have a question about it. You have some people who are on call sometimes. I know the sheriff's office does. I was involved in one of those many years ago. Is there an issue with not being able to accumulate or to take the time that they generate for being on call on weekends, for example, and that sort of thing? Or isn't that part of not part of it anymore? Okay. All right, ancient history, I guess.
any other questions?
All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
thank you.
Mr. West, can't see him back there, but I know he's awake.
I'm here. Good afternoon, members of the board, I have one item for consideration. That's our annual North Dakota DOT maintenance certification. Comes around, like I said, annually, once a year, we certify that we maintain our roads according to the DOT standards, which I believe we do. And ask for approval on the form and chairman's auditor and state's attorney's signature.
Any questions? Everybody have a chance to look at it, the document?
I make a motion to approve.
Seconded by Commissioner Hagan. Oh, what's this one? Is this procedural or not?
No, this would be. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second, and hearing no further discussion, roll call vote. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's passed. Thank you. Is that the chair's signature too? Auditor or should chair on there?
Yeah.
And fair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Nelson, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. According to the North Dakota Century Code 1604:01, section 3, by December 31st of every year prior to an election year, you have to set the precinct boundaries. I have notified the district chairs that I would like them to stay the same as they were in 2022. They are listed there. The precincts actually include cities, but you are not approving the cities, they do that themselves. So it's outside in the incorporated state. So I would like a motion to approve the precincts the same as they were in 2022.
All right. Mr. Page.
Mr. Chair, I would approve this as precincts for 2024, the same as they were in.
Second. Well said. I think we'll about that. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, member of the commission, I have October financial report. Starting on page 71, the general fund, you've collected 93.54% of our revenues budgeted. October 31st is 83% of the year complete. And our expenditures are at 78.75%. In the general fund. Anticipate that we'll have a book just over $15 million at the end of the year in the general fund. The road funds, we have 97.15% of the revenues collected. 91.81% of the expenditure spent. And we project we'll have about $1 million in the road fund at the end of the year. Capital projects. We have the revenue that are 105%, expenditures 945%. Why is that? We had $15 million that we took out of our bond funds that are sitting there drawing interest, and we're going to use that 2% loan. And that's why that is like that. So at the end of this year, I project I have $15 million left in that bond fund, but we're gonna have 15 million sitting in there to pay the later interest or later debt service on those bonds.
Yeah.
And then we are going to, once we spend the money, then we're going to collect the money from the Bank of North Dakota with that loan. So that's another $15 million waiting for us for our use. We control 88.87% of revenue. 49.42% of expenditures, $90,000 is estimated cash at the end of the year. And then you can see the other ones, we have collected 84.84% in revenues, we spent 91.31%. Overall, we're at 93.25% of our revenues collected. And this looks bad at 128%, but that's because of our 945% of that $15 million transfer that we did. The next page shows the general fund departments. The human service zone indirect, we no longer have that. It stopped as of August 1st. So we no longer have any expenses there. The county fair is just the reimbursement. As we collect property taxes, we send it on to the fair. That's 91.4% collected, and we sent that off to the fair. Insurance reserve, we're slightly over at 103.82%. That's we have budgeted. We have budgeted, increased our budget for 2024 because of the increased cost. All the other funds are under the 83% that the year were at October 31st. They're all under until you get to contracted services, and we pay them January and July, so that's why they're 100%. The county is slightly over. Miscellaneous is over. Why is it over? Because we transferred $292,000 from that risk, the workforce safety risk money that we had in the general fund. We moved it to a separate fund just so we could track it. So that's where that $292,000 miscellaneous transfer came from. Also, we had the buyout of the Pierce property, and we're getting reimbursed for that, but our costs came out of the general fund miscellaneous line item and will be reimbursed probably next year. And then the capital improvements, we're at 56.5. Sorry, 55.6. And we still have the sheriff's department training facility restroom. This started, we haven't been billed for that yet. We have the remaining part of the manhole shed. We paid about half, we've got half left. There's $100,000 that was put in for the safety electrical at the fairgrounds. I believe that's going to happen still. And the court facilities grant, although we just paid it, we paid it in November, we paid it in full. And I don't know that we'll get reimbursed until next year with that. But that's all I had on financial report. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Mr. County Administrator, do you have anything for us today?
Just a couple things, Mr. Chairman. But I'm gonna be very brief. Pretty much, I won't go into great detail because it's all in your memo and packets, but stop me for questions, please. I think I'll just go right along to the agenda item, Cobb and courthouse space utilization assessment. I have 3 proposals. One from JLG, one from EAPC, one from Icon. This is to take a look at how we're using office space in the Cobb and the courthouse and give us some best use case scenarios. JLG is providing us a proposal of $39,500. That means that they would sit down and meet with county department heads, tenants, and stakeholders. And then eventually provide us a document with findings showing recommendations and conceptual plans. That's just one phase. It's just a 1-phase proposal. EAPC is showing us in their proposal 2 phases. So again, meet with stakeholders and tenants, identify and discuss needs and confirm the needs, develop an assessment and the cost. Phase 1, that would be $42,000. And then there is a phase 2, which is if you were to accept the proposal from the APC, would be a follow-up that we would elect if we chose to. That would be providing a master plan with short-term and long-term drawings, prints, costs. And that could range anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000. But right now, phase 1, what the commission is looking for would be $42,000. And then the third proposal is from Icon, and that would have 2 phases. The first phase would update their 2016 office master plan that they conducted for the county. and the 2020 master plan that they conducted for a sheriff's center that would include state's attorney's office. That phase one would be pro bono. Phase two would be providing architectural services for the county if we move forward with any project. So if you accept that agreement, you are accepting the pro bono study, and then you are accepting them to provide architectural services in any project moving forward. And so those are the three proposals. They're all a little different, all get to what we are looking for. And up to the commission what you'd like to do. I defer to Ms. Wamstead on Icon's proposal and the second step and agreeing to what they provide.
Seems to me that's something we can't do. Ms. Wamstead, what are your thoughts?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the proposal that Icon sent to Mr. Ford included a contract which provided for the pro bono services, but then guaranteed them the architectural services on any building should it stem from the study. I think there are a few things the commission needs to be aware of if you are looking at pursuing that option. By agreeing to that, that would forego any type of public bidding or assessment of soliciting other architectural firms should we look to build a building in the future. Also, if there are federal funds like ARPA funds or anything like that that we wish to utilize on a project such as that, we wouldn't be able to utilize those funds to pay the architect, because the federal requirements require us to go through a bidding process to seek those services. So, just kind of a few things to be aware of if you're considering their option.
Mr. Chair.
Who's got a question?
I do feel that even if it was perfectly legal to do something like that, I'm not comfortable with it. The answer exists completely to one architect for it. So, I mean, I guess, to me, we choose from the other two. Would be my thoughts.
And did that been, Mr. Ford, did that been discussed with Icon? Did they understand that there's a peculiar way of doing this?
I did meet with Icon about a month ago to discuss, because if you recall, they did submit a proposal of 50,000. And then the commission directed me to get other proposals. I did have that discussion. Hence the pro bono with the architectural services.
There's the off of the pro bono, I'll leave that other piece out, and I'd be easy decision.
So.
So that does then narrow down to JLG with at 39,500 and PAGC at 42,000.
Thoughts of the commission?
My opinion, that decision makes itself based on the number. Yeah,
Is there a motion?
I'd like to move we hire JLG for our study.
And here,
Excuse me, I'd like to move that we hire JLG for our space study here at the top.
I'll second that one.
Mr. Pete, second. Any further questions of Mr. Ford or further discussion? Hearing none. Assuming a roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, in favor of the motion. All right,
Before I forget, there's one other last minute. We received a pay application request from construction engineers in the amount of $2,925,344.50. That's for the Youth Assessment Center project. And we received it about a month ago. If you recall, the commission allocated some ARPA dollars to cover this project. So Ms. Wamstead, Ms. Nelson, and I have been working with construction engineers just to make sure we check all the correct boxes before we apply to ARPA. We're comfortable that we've checked all those boxes. Ms. Nelson, Ms. Wamstead, and myself have reviewed it. We're comfortable with it, but it was issued a month ago. We'd like commission approval to get that taken care of and get that payout paid instead of delaying another 2 weeks.
All right. Any questions?
So that would come from ARPA, Mr. Chair, too.
Any questions?
I make a motion to approve.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Peach? Any further discussion? And, let's take a roll call vote on this one. First, Commissioner Rusted.
Aye.
Commissioner Hagan.
Aye.
Commissioner Peach.
Aye.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Ross. And I'm aye as well,
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Moving along to the county parking ramp. I did meet with city leadership as requested, met with the city administrator and city planning director. The feedback to me was they would not be interested in taking the ramp on under the management contract. They would like to see the county put in the necessary repairs into the parking ramp that were illustrated in the AE2S and Walker assessment and appraisal. And then once those repairs are finished, they would be interested in then entertaining that discussion at another time. So right now, just for the commission's awareness, it is still your discretion if you want to go back to the city and offer it under their management contract. Some things they would have to drastically increase parking prices, for example, as they'd be operating kind of loss with this parking ramp due to the repairs that need to go into it. Just to remind the commission, the repairs that were identified in the appraisal, the first 2 years could be spread 1 year each. Immediate repairs was 3.2 million, so that's 1.6 million each year. And then there was an 18-year maintenance plan at 3 million. Which if you divide that out each year for a capital improvement budget, you're at 170,000 a year, not accounting for inflation. So at this point, looking for commission direction on how to proceed. It is staff's recommendation though that we start making repairs somehow. The first level deck, Mr. Clevin did do a walkthrough a couple months ago. There wasn't much deterioration from the first assessment. However, there was significant deterioration on the second deck, as compared to the initial assessment. But looking for commission direction on what to do next.
I'd like to weigh in, you don't mind, Mr. Chair.
Question?
Well, more of a kind of an overall statement and just a position on it. So those numbers to me, obviously you mentioned, not including inflation, are pretty high. I mean, I think we can all agree, I would hope we could all agree that this is sort of an anchor that's tied around our ankle. And I think that going back to the city with something is in our best interest because of the financial position we're sitting in. I think that even if we took some funds and sweetened the pot a little bit, I think we got an email, all of us did last Friday from the mayor alluding to this, that there's still a potential of a decision from the city where we could make a trade if we maybe threw in a little bit of the money to help fix it. It would be a fraction of what the total cost is. And then we could still get in writing from them something that would allude to the fact that we could still, save all the spaces for our staff here. And I think even at those elevated costs, because, once you can imagine the firm involved, obviously they need to make money too. So the price of the stalls would come up some, but I just can't even fathom that it would be upwards into the millions in a time like this where I think we need to be kind of looking at any hard decision that might need to be made. So I guess I would really like for this commission to consider going back to the city, throw something at them formal, stating that we will offer them a trade with the parking around and some additional monies for that lot by the courthouse that we initially discussed. Now, knowing that the ramp is in worse condition than we even thought back when this first came up. I think probably it'd be a significant amount, maybe $1 million or something of that nature, but $1 million isn't $6 million. And when we, have these budget talks every year about salaries and things of that nature. I don't want to see people's salaries be affected by a dilapidated parking ramp that we
and it's almost a duplicate service, you know, the city's already got two that they're operating. Why not make it three? Let's cut a deal and cross their fingers that the city council will vote in favor. I mean, worst case scenario, we wind up right back where we're at. So I mean, if they could take a $5 to $6 million headache right off our lap for $1 million, and then we get a little land and we get the lot, right? And we get the lot. I mean, then we've got a potential location for a future sheriff's department. Everyone in this room knows that's needed. And, you know, there's other options as well, but I mean, at least we have an asset we get back that doesn't need $6 million in repairs. And so I think it's worth a try. I don't know what the worst outcome would be is they decide, no, it's too much money and it's your problem. That'd be the worst thing. And then it becomes our problem again. Best thing that could happen is they say, you know what, we're already in the parking ramp business. Let's throw it in the contract with the other two. And then we go our way by taking a $5 million, $6 million problem and solving it for 1 million. You know, it'd be different if we were, you know, tonned up and if we just kind of all got some money in the bank, but I think difficult decisions are need to be made at this time. And I think this would be, to me, not that difficult. To me, this is a no brainer, but I'd like to hear my peers. Yeah. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I kind of agree with Commissioner Rusted, which is unusual, but anyway. I think it's worth checking out, actually, you know, throw it out to the city and see what they say. And I don't know how soon you could find that out. If it could be by the next commission meeting.
If that's what, yeah, so if there's consensus for me to go back, I'm happy to go back to Mr. Phelan and say. Take it to the city
I do have a
council.
question about the. Somebody in the discussion talked about the increase in parking fees for our employees, and it would be very substantial. Is that part of what they've been discussing from the city? Do anyone know the details?
So, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I can speak to that a little bit. So you probably all saw the article, the city's got some similar issues with their parking ramps. They've had to reassess their parking prices to adjust and offset. Talking with staff at the city, yes, if they acquired a ramp, they would adjust the parking fees to reflect and be consistent with the corporate center. And central parking ramp. That being said, at the risk of becoming the least unpopular person at the county. If you decide to keep the ramp, we have to reassess our own parking fees. I just think we have to try and close our own gap.
What would be the difference as far as you believe what staff, whatever staff told, you, what would they be raising it to, do you know?
I do, I was told they would have to raise $200 a month.
From what?
We've, currently employees pay $35 a month and the top level is free.
How many employees do we have using it?
We have 127 reserve spaces. 21 Northeast Human Services. I don't have the exact number for social services. We have some residential, we have some business. And then we try to reserve the top or jury parking, but 127 permits, that's actually up from a year ago.
Social services.
Well, that's something we have to keep in mind, you know, we try to look after our employees in other ways, we shouldn't forget about this one, so we can lose that in the course of the discussion, but if we're gonna go ahead with the discussion, I don't have any objection to that either. But, I'm not too inclined to see parking rates increase so much for our employees here.
I mean, I don't wanna see parking rates increase either, but I don't wanna keep just throwing money at a parking ramp that we could maybe offload and be done with it and. But also I wanted to throw the point home, because last time we had this discussion, I got. Calls from some employees about that they won't be able to use the parking ramp at all, but. The city did say that we would be able to put it in the contract that they would still be able to use the parking shop. It's not gonna get torn down, I'm made in a condo, it's not gonna be sold off.
No,
It is going to stay a parking ramp for the utilization of our employees and the people that need to use it at the county.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. And the point that I brought up, you know, you got Northeast Human Services, you've got Grand Forks Social Services. Would they be willing to pay that $100 a spot, or would they just? Go park some other place?
Well, if they wanted to move parking ramps. There's only two other options and I know what they charge, so. it would be brought to the same as the other two parking ramps
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Mr. Chair. Yeah. If, another question I have is if we go ahead with repair. Is that all, where we get that funding? Can any of it come from other funds or is it just out of our bottom line?
Mr. Chairman, member of the commission, we have $3 million in ARPA funds that we allocated towards the city wastewater treatment plant. And that's still sitting there, so that could be allocated elsewhere. And then there's additional CARES dollars that we haven't used yet. That's about $1.3 million.
There are some resources available. If we needed to put into repair of the parking lot.
And the question is, what other uses should we be reserving those dollars for? If any, and when does that expire as far as our ability to use those funds? Anyone know?
So ARPA has to be allocated by December 31st, 2024.
Yeah.
We don't have to spend it by then, but we do have to allocate it by then.
Okay, so we've got, at least it's not December of this year, so we can take a look at this and figure it out. Mr. Ruff?
Mr. Chair, so I guess one thing I wanted to go back to is Mr. Ford, you'd mentioned that you'd be the most unpopular person in the county by elevating the parking rates to offset some of this. Would you be thinking roughly the same as that $100 rate the city was referencing, or are you thinking something less than that? And then my other comment, unrelated to that exactly, is, you know, to remind Commissioner Ingham that the grandstands are kind of over at the Speedway or looming, and they're overseen by my favorite agency on earth, the Historical Society. So that can swallow up all.
Just don't put a dome on it.
Nice piece of artwork. Still here.
Although, I mean, it's something to bear in mind that there is another capital project that probably would fall into the purview of those funds, you know, looming. And I think, you know, to be quite frank, that I think about the notion of those things collapsing, that would be not good.
Mm.
You know, that would be not good, that maybe should be made a priority.
And I actually think they've done some structural things
Yeah.
to improve that part. But yeah, you're absolutely right, but I do think we do need to explore,
I think so.
with the city. Just what Mr. Commissioner
I
Ruff
mean, at the end of the day,
had
they can tell us no, and then we're back
Yeah.
to discussion. We can just see if this is just a bargaining tool that we can have.
Right.
to See what they say.
I mean,
what
the
they
fact
come back with.
that we'd be putting some money into it, we get the lot. You know, and they could use that money to help refurbish this, but I think we need to check it out.
And then just butter up your favorite city council people in the meantime.
Christmas gifts.
Send some flowers, yeah.
Whatever it takes. Yeah. Sorry, I don't think we need a voting for this kind of consensus to have Mr. Ford follow up anymore, do we? I don't think so. We want to. Let's see if we can get the hard facts by our December 19th meeting and see where we go.
I'll follow up with city administrator Phelan this week.
I recommend including the mayor in that.
Yes, sir. I will do that.
Cause he's the one that sent that Friday email, so definitely add him because he's got some maybe opinions that he hasn't shared with the administrator yet. He's the top administrator, so.
Will do. Good, okay. I'll keep moving along. Courthouse dome. Miller Dunwoody and construction engineers are here for a quick project and budget update. And I know Mr. Green is on. I'm gonna throw it to Mr. Green who's on Zoom to give a quick project update.
Good afternoon, board. Thank you, Tom. We are going to do a few slides here. Martina Foss Ashworth, the project architect, is going to do a brief update of progress on both investigation and documents, and then we also have our first round of pricing on that. And I believe is Donnie Wilcox present in the room? for
He is.
taking
I'm
that
here.
handoff? Okay, perfect. So we'll hand it off to Donnie to provide some additional on the budget side. Martina, are you ready?
Yeah. Sorry, I can't wave to you, but know that I am here waving, but now you can see my screen. We're just gonna take a short moment to do an update on our current project. But I did just want to say thanks for having us back in the room. I remember you all talking about the parking ramp the last time I joined, so sorry, it's still a point of discussion. But as we move towards fixing this dome, we're excited to share with you a little bit about what we've discovered about it and how the progress of the design is coming along. The first kind of area we'll talk just briefly about is investigation. We have done and are doing a number of things to verify what is needed and how we should design it. And so if we just think about the first one is roofing cuts. We had a testing group out to cut open the copper and take a look at what is there in the condition and if there's anything hazardous underneath the copper. I'm happy to report that it really is built as the old drawings designed it to be. There wasn't any other kind of membrane under there, which makes it much simpler for us to replace the copper and add what we need to kind of waterproof this structure. In addition, in that same time frame, hazardous material testing was done, and the inspection report came back with, no concerns. There was just no unexpected materials present. Let's see. And if we go to data loggers, we, with the help of construction engineers, have placed data loggers, which are just little devices that can track like humidity and temperature throughout the drum of the dome, so above the roof. And then we've put at least one within the interior of the building as well, so that we can kind of understand the temperature differential over this fall and now winter seasons as it gets colder. How does the humidity of this space change? How does the temperature change? And we know that there's been ice buildup in the past, and so we want to get a good read on that as we forge ahead towards completing design. The last two items of investigation have to do with structural and plaster. So these were two different trips that our team took to take a look at what's there and really narrow in on what needs to be done. And I'll cover those in the next two slides. Beginning with steel, what we found is that the exposed steel framing at the roof, which is shown in the image here, is in mostly good condition. It does have corrosion, but there's just some kind of tweaking with the structure. And so to kind of keep that in place, additional bracing would be required. And so that's what we're designing for the construction documents. Although the corrosion of the steel inside each of the masonry piers, so between every window, there's a framing member that goes down to the beams below. Even though that was pretty corroded, it did not have a big impact on how this structure supports itself. And so there really is just a lot of cleaning that will be done to any of the corroded areas. And then that added bracing for the roof framing. So I think overall, there's a less impactful structural solution that we're doing. And the drum steel has really held up despite all of the water intrusion. Moving towards plaster, I spent a trip looking at this up on a lift, on the ladder, and then our structural engineer also looked at it above to make sure there weren't any kind of structural loss. So what we were able to do in that time was to clarify that where the exact areas of plaster loss are, the extent of repairs related to plaster and paint. There were some areas of mold, particularly above one of the murals. And then just to get our head around the quantity for molding repair, so the decorative molding, especially that you would see in the hallways. So you can see even on this image here where there's these gray boxes and annotations to them. Those are the areas that need repair and where we would say, okay, replace this whole panel, replace this rib in the hallway, and then kind of some of the bigger areas of replacement here. They're not even necessarily full panel, but it might be a lot of paint, you know. So that is where we're headed for plaster repairs. At this point, we now understand that the historical review will be conducted by the state of North Dakota's Historic Preservation Office, or so, and the ND-SHPO, in lieu of the City of Grand Forks HPC. So what that means is there's initially a 30-day review period where they will look at a memo that we've put together and our initial drawing package, kind of schematic package, and just see where we're at and if they have any, you know, concerns about where we're going to make replacements and adjustments, and how we're going to preserve this. So the memo included a bulleted review of all the materials that we're going to be working with and how we're going to repair them, and what replacement specifically needs to happen. And then our general approach to the Secretary of Interior standards, which they need to understand so they know how we're going to preserve it as a building and a building on the National Register. Lastly, and I'll hand this over to Donnie if he's right there, we should talk about pricing and where it's at right now. So I'll turn it over to him.
Good evening. So we priced the next set of design documents from Miller Dunwoody and got pricing from a few subcontractors. As you know, this isn't the typical commercial roof that we're replacing, so there's specialty contractors that are involved that were very busy this fall when we were trying to price this. And when we got prices from 2 separate roofing contractors and an opinion over a phone of a third during this budgetary phase. But Lance from our office ramrodded most of this pricing, and he did get verbal confirmation from several other specialty roofing contractors that they will participate when the project comes out to bid. So we're expecting more participation at that time. We got 2 prices from that at that point. The one was at 1.5 million, and the other was at 2.9 million, and the one over the phone was roughly 2. So our budget for the roofing portion of the project, which is the largest portion of the project, is right around that 2 million. And which that brings us to a total construction cost of about 4.8 million, 4.876 million with all included. And then with a couple of alternate options, one being the plaster repair inside the building, and then also the electrical service replacement within the space. Those being alternates only because those parts of the project could be left for a later date. The other part, the electrical service replacement, we're also working on defining the scope of that part of the project as well. The scope may be significantly less than what's actually there, what we have budgeted for. So that's why another reason why we left that for an alternate. The other thing I wanted to point out too was we have 5% design contingency, 5% construction contingency, and another 3% owner contingency, which all adds up to about $600,000 and some thousand dollars, over $600,000 of contingencies. That as long as we fall within that, we can use that contingency money to help cover those alternates and bring those back into the project. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. The copper on the dome itself, can any of that be refurbished, or does it have to be totally replaced?
Some of it will be refurbished, especially the decorative items and the monumental items. That'll be part of the project where they have to actually remove those. They will bring them off site and restore those. Some of the flat, just the standard pieces, that'll be replaced.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I have a question as well.
They were mentioning, or she was mentioning prior to you coming up, that there's gonna be some additional framing and support work done underneath the dome. Just out of curiosity, do you happen to know what material will be used for that? Just that, she had also mentioned the corrosion to the steel that's under there right now, so should that corrosion continue to. Go over the years and just kind of get worse and worse, is what's being put up there good enough to hold it up for the life of the roof, or?
Yeah, there's a little bit of reinforcing that'll be going up in there, reinforcing what's existing there. I can't speak to exactly the additional work that's gonna be done to the rest of the existing steel, but we did do, we tested for thickness of the existing steel. Which even though on the surface, it looks like it's corroding, it's actually in very good shape. Martina, maybe you can speak more to, more technical, what the response was from the structural team that analyzed that.
Yeah, I think from what I understand previously and today, there's some kind of tweaking with the framing in the dome, almost like it's off kilter a little bit. And it could have been just related to wind. You know, being that it's up so high and it's subject to that. And so to stabilize that, the framing needs to be added. But it was less about that there was what's called section loss. So if you think about something that's 2 inches thick, if it's now 1 7/8, it's lost 1/8, right? And so what we understand for the framing that's underneath the drum that holds that whole drum up, the section loss is so minimal that all we really need to do is scrape the corroded metal off and coat it so that it wouldn't continue to rust. And we would do that as well in the main drum and on the roof framing. So any of the metal that you see and the metal that's in the wall, the steel, would get scraped and coated so that it's not going to continue to corrode over time and wouldn't corrode that new framing.
Just to clarify, the new framing would be steel that would be added to the existing steel. So it's kind of like a bicycle wheel up there, and we'd be adding additional sort of cross bracing to between the spokes of the wheel to help prevent sort of twisting and racking that can come from like wind loads.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Questions? So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the budget that was originally presented to county staff was over the commission set budget, so we did ask construction engineers to come up with some alternates, hence why you're seeing like plaster repair and electrical service possibly being phased for a later time, just to try to bring that back down under budget. And so that's at this point requesting that the commission accept the alternate budget that's presented. And Miller and construction engineers can continue commencing with work.
Is that alternate budget the 4,876,661?
Yes, sir.
Further discussion? What?
That will be a roll call.
Yeah, and any other further questions of Mr. Ford or our folks online? Here.
Yeah, I guess one question from
Go
Ford, what is it, remind me, my computer shut down, what is the difference between what was initially brought and what we're being asked to approve, can you recall?
Yes, sir.
145,000.
I've got that right here in front of me, actually. Originally, Commissioner Russ did, it was gonna be at $5,449,000. And at the request of staff, construction engineers is presenting the alternate at $4,876,661.
And that's with the alternates.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I would move to approve the alternates.
Second,
Net amount is 4,876,661.
yeah.
Second by Commissioner Ross. We will have a roll call vote. Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Commissioner Beach,
Yes.
Commissioner Hagan,
Yes.
yes? Commissioner Rusted,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well, unanimous for this passage.
Very good, just a couple more for the commission. I'm gonna skip ahead to the courthouse security improvement project. That is well underway in the courthouse. For the commissioner's awareness and to weigh in. If you recall, when we were awarded that courthouse security improvement grant, originally the scope included a voice enunciation system. But that system alone was quoted at $395,000, so we removed that from the scope. But the commission did say that we would revisit it in a future courthouse security improvement grant or potentially capital improvements. That being said, Mr. Gashesky has been reaching out directly with industry, see if we can get a better price on that system. We do not anticipate getting those quotes in time to submit a 2024 grant application, so staff is recommending we just don't apply. And we wait to see what other kind of pricing comes in. And then we can revisit it with either in a 2025 grant or capital improvements, but 395 is still what we have and would not recommend moving forward with that right now.
Questions for Mr. Ford?
Okay,
And we don't need any motion on this one, do we?
sir.
All right,
Lastly, last but not least, Mr. West and I are on the project management committee for the Merrifield and intercity river bridge crossing. You were supposed to be presented a full scope and budget from the consulting agency SRF next month. But there's more follow-up meetings are needed with the Federal Highway Administration, so that's gonna push the timeline back to probably middle to end of February when you'll see something from the consultant, so. And that's,
and
unless there's questions.
I
Mr.
believe I
Chair, that's all I
heard
have.
that the city voted to remove the interior of city bridge from their long range plan. Anybody know anything about that?
I think what they're doing is they pulled specific crossings
Yeah.
out. And so, right, what the consultant's direction is determine the best feasible inner city location and Fairfield. So right now, there has not been an inner city location determined.
Mr. Rusted, you're attending those meetings, any other news?
That, what you just referenced is the new developments since the last MPO, I believe would be tomorrow, or maybe it's following, as I got to look for it. That probably will not be popular in Clubhouse.
Okay.
If that's the case, I hadn't heard that yet.
I've heard on the actually, Councilman,
Dana Sandy.
Sandy was speaking, and I believe he said that they removed it. He was in favor of removing that object from the southern plan, and I think it passed 4-3 in the city council. Board, so that's all I know.
I'll make sure not to miss that next MPO meeting.
There you go, that might be interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else, Mr. Ford?
That's all I have, sir.
All right. Ms. Wamstead, state's attorney.
I have nothing for the board today, thank you.
Committee reports. Start this way this time, Mr. Commissioner Ross.
Okay, well, we have our construction meetings every Tuesday, we just had one today about it. Correctional center and youth assessment center. And things are really moving along out there, they're putting like steel rafters across today. And they hope to have part C, I think, enclosed here. And put a little heat in there so they can start doing some plumbing or whatever inside. Getting the ground soft, they figure the frost is about 4 inches down, so. Yeah. Which is good this time.
It's gonna be better than 4 feet of snow.
Yeah. So, Other than that, I think that's all I got. Commissioner Beach.
There is some discussion going on with the airport authority, talking about additional vendors possibly doing some more flight travel to the west and back, and that is being discussed. Nothing in line yet, but there are vendors out there that do travel to the west and back, mainly through Denver. And so that's being discussed at this.
Yeah, Frontier used to do that, wasn't it?
Right, right.
Yeah, let's have that again.
I just went west, but I had to go to Florida to get there.
Oh, yeah, so. Mr. Hagan, anything else?
Yeah, I have two things. I was gonna give an update on the CDIC news. A couple weeks ago, they reached out to the county and let us know that they will be having a reduction in their BOPA dollars. This isn't going to affect until 2024, 2025, but it's a 34% decrease and it's statewide, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong either, okay, like $2 million across the state, but locally, it's around $240,000. That the CBIC will be having a reduction in their annual budget. Their budget from VOCA represents $700,000 of their annual budget. A lot of the services that the CBIC provides are required by the state, and so now the conversation is, what are some of the services that we are mandated and some of the services that we might not have mandated that we might have to look at changing to fit the budget. The team at the CBIC, I know that Lily and Tom have done a really good job reaching out to representatives and city and county representatives to let them know what's going on. You didn't see in your packet, there was a letter that went out to some folks about what was going on and getting their support to.
All our legislators.
Yeah, getting their support to get those dollars put back. Will it get put back? We don't know, but that'll be a conversation that we'll continue to have. But in good news, at the library, you can go check out the Lego display until December 22nd. So having the holiday blues off the CBIC.
Looks like it's a huge
It
display.
is huge. But we've been going every year since my son was probably, my oldest was probably 5 or 6, and it's incredible the displays that they can create and the movements and the lights and all the things. So it's something to go check out. And it's up at the library. You can go in and go check out the library and then go over to the Lego display. So
Good idea.
that's all I
Mr. Rusted.
Nothing from the past, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on a meeting that we're gonna have on Thursday with P and Z. I've spoken with State's Attorney Walkstead about this and also with Mr. Magnuson. There was a request from one of the state legislators that we adopt to try to help with momentum to get this bill passed through the state, the county adopts, so it will be considered exemption from non-conforming properties, and I don't know that in a county would even run into that, this is more of kind of a formality thing, but I guess. The Cliff Notes version of this would be, like an example would be the house right next door to the Red Pepper on University Avenue that got collided with the vehicle. Well, they weren't allowed to rebuild because the lot wasn't wide enough. And so I think the concern from the representative Steve Vetter that's moving this forward is that should somebody be renting or maybe first home in an area of town that's built umpteen years ago, everything has changed. Then all of a sudden a fire, if it takes more than, I wanna say 40%, or it could be 60%, I forget exactly, but then they wouldn't be allowed to rebuild on that site, so they'd be kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of up a creek. So I think, you know, I maybe defer a little bit to State's Attorney Wamstead on the legalities of it. But to me, it just makes common sense and it's kind. I think it's good natured. So that'll take place Thursday at PNC, so I'm guessing a recommendation will come out of there. So hopefully it'll match my recommendation.
Yeah, makes sense. Anything else?
That's it for me.
And I have nothing for the order today, so let's see, where are we here? Correspondence, no, unfinished business. Board of
Yes.
Equalization.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, you have a letter from Ms. Goodnight to set the date of the County Board of Equalization. It must be within the first 10 days of June, and she has selected June 2024, because that's your regularly scheduled meeting. So I need a motion.
So moved. Commissioner Rusted, seconded by Commissioner Hagan. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yeah.
And the next item is just notifying you, we could attend the 60th annual North Dakota Water Convention and Irrigation Workshop.
Well, what's next on the agenda, I wonder,
I would like to motion to adjourn, please.
good plan.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Here,
that's
we are-
a great student.
See, that part carries on.